So everybody's jiving, but let's jive on that level.
If I love you, I can't lie to you.
Of course you can lie to me. And you will. If you love me and you're going off with Maddie someplace, you're lying to me. Because what the hell do I care about the truth? I care if you're there. But Billie Holiday say, hush now, don't explain.
All right, I accept that.
Of course.
All
Of
right,
course
I
you'll lie to
accept
me.
that.
Because I don't even want to care. What does the truth matter? And why are you going to be truthful with me when you lie to everybody else? You lied when you smiled at that cracker down the job, right? Lie to me, smile. Treat me the same way you would treat him.
I can't treat you the way I treat him.
You must. Because I've caught the frowns and the anger. He's happy with you. Of course he doesn't know you're unhappy. You grin at him all day long. You come home and I catch hell because I love you. I get least of you. I get the very minimum. And I'm saying, fake it with me. Is that too much of the black woman to ask of the black man?
Welcome back, warriors. This is me, Linda B. Thank you all so much for joining me here today. Well, we're going to talk about Nikki Giovanni. As you know, she's the famous poet and author, and she actually passed several days ago, Nikki Giovanni, at the age of 81. Now, I want to talk more about Giovanni and how she came to be. But before we get into it, don't forget to like this video, comment, share, subscribe to my channel, hit that notification bell. Make sure you hit all notifications. Watch this to the end because this is something else that you may not know. So let's get into it. So Nikki Giovanni, as you all have heard by now, has passed. And she has been celebrated in the African-American community for decades. She came about in the 1960s, and she had her way of doing things. Now, we got to talk about this thing called the Civil Rights Movement. Now, I thought about it today, and I'm thinking, Lord have mercy. Is there anything good that came out of the Civil Rights Movement as it pertains to Black people? Because when I'm looking at the stats, and I'm sure you guys know that the family is the cornerstone of a healthy society, a healthy family. And when I say family, I mean the nuclear family, a father, mother, children. Okay, the man being the head of his household, the patriarchal society. But today, there's something that has been happening for decades, and that is the degradation of the patriarchal towards the matriarchal. Now, let's look at the matriarchal society. Matriarchal society is led by women. Okay, it's led by women, and that is what's happening in the Black community since the 60s, when we saw a drastic uptick in the number of Black babies born outside of wedlock. It has been trending in the wrong direction since the Civil Rights Movement. And the Civil Rights Movement is a movement that was supposed to help Black people, but did it really? Because last time I checked, since the Civil Rights Movement, not only do we have a terrible uptick in out of wedlock births, there are no men in the households, the women are running the show, there's a high incarceration rate. Our schools are trash. They are not doing well in school. And we are at the bottom of every socioeconomic status that you can measure. And we absolutely have no generational wealth. You have a two-parent household, you have a combined income, you have combined resources, and you have that God component, which is how God made us to bring about family, to multiply, to actually multiply and raise up children in the fear and admonition of the Lord. But the Civil Rights Movement turned our eyes away from God towards the government. We're not supposed to worship nor depend on the government. We worship and depend on the Lord. And it is also the fact that the Civil Rights Movement gave Black people a victim mindset. Martin Luther King is hailed in the Black community and white liberals as well. But what I noticed in him speaking is that he said, the Black man still is not free. So that is saying our freedom comes from a white man, but not from God. The Constitution says we have unalienable rights given to us by God. That means we are free. Freedom is a mindset, and so is slavery. And so that mindset and then out of it came white supremacy and, like you're saying, white people are better and white privilege. I'm privileged because I'm a child of God. I am already free, been free. I do not have a victim mindset. Okay, it is how you think. Okay, and that civil rights movement, what came out of it was a dependency on government, one parent households with a matriarchal society, children not graduating from high school, they can't even read, do math, history, or science at grade level, high crime, drug addiction, out of wedlock births, every gang activity, everything horrible came out of it. So how do you measure the success of something is how well did it do in all of these areas? In the 1940s, 15% of Black babies were born out of wedlock. By the 1960s, it had hovered at around 20 something percent, about 23%. Now, about 80%. Almost 80%, right at it. 80% of Black children in America are born outside of wedlock. And Linda B, what does that have to do with Nikki Giovanni? What does that have to do with her? Well, she is the one who was part of this movement to get Black women away from men. Her idea was you get pregnant, have a child, leave the man out of it, because her mindset, and I'm talking about Nikki Giovanni, her mindset was that men destroyed families. They were harmful. The statistics say otherwise, but this is a woman that the Black community has praised. She has won 7, not 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, but 7 NAACP Image Awards. She has received numerous awards, not just NAACP awards. And why do we hail this woman so highly? She was also an honorary member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority, member of Eastern Stars, which is idolatrous to say the least. This is the woman that we hail. And she wrote poems. She was about this feminism. And out of feminism came a lot of queerness. And yes, that's something else you may not know about Nikki Giovanni. Yes, she was a lesbian. That is correct. She had a baby with a man. She didn't want to be with the man because she was a lesbian. And she was for Black love, but she ended up marrying a white woman by the name of Virginia Fowler. Yes, that's correct. But going back to when she had her child in 1969, her child's name was Thomas Watson Giovanni, who she birthed in 1969, and she did not want to do it with the father around. That was her idea. And see, this whole civil rights movement, I started thinking, I said to myself, how did this civil rights movement get started? Like at the very beginning, like who funded it? Like whose idea was it? We say it was Martin Luther King Jr., but was it really? I mean, it started in the 50s. He was preaching. That's what they tell us. That's what the history books say. That's what it says online. But could it be a bunch of rich, liberal, racist, white racist, liberals, the elites that came up with this idea? Could it just be that? Because when I looked who founded the civil rights movement, not founded it, but helped fund it was Henry Ford. Yes, the automaker, the founder of Ford Motor Companies. Ford, Henry Ford. So when we look at the very origin of something, and Henry Ford was a raging anti-Semite. Another thing about Henry Ford, he defended the Ku Klux Klan. That's right. He had only good things to say about them. So that lets you know how he also felt about Black people. And this is the one that funded the civil rights movement with MLK. You can look it up. He really did. And also the fact that, okay, this money is shared amongst these Black people who are fighting for civil rights, but the very thing they do hurts Black people. That is what's so bothersome. And at the beginning of the clip, you saw a young Nikki Giovanni talking to a James Baldwin. James Baldwin was also queer. There were a lot of queer people in the civil rights movement. Gee, why is that? This was very intentional. This was intended to destroy the Black family. There were so many moves being made to keep the man out of the house because a woman could not receive welfare benefits unless the man was out of the house. If there was an able-bodied man, no matter what her relationship to the man was, maybe it could have been someone that was not in a romantic relationship. But the fact that a man would be in the house able-bodied, they would say, no benefits for you. So it encouraged, this out of wedlock birth and keeping the man out of the house. And it hurts the children. And it also keeps people in poverty. Heavy generational poverty that repeats itself cycle after cycle after cycle. So if you look at others like Angela Davis, also a lesbian, she is queer as well. There are things that she has said. And I want you guys to take a special look at this right here with Nikki Giovanni. Here's a poem that Nikki Giovanni wrote in the mid-1990s. And it is a tribute to Tupac Shakur. All Eyes on You by Nikki Giovanni. As I tossed and turned, unable to achieve sleep, unable to control anxiety, unable to comprehend why Tupac is not with us. If those who lived by the sword died by the sword, there would be no white men on earth. If those who lived on hatred died on hatred, there would be no KKK. If those who lived by lies died by lies, there would be nobody on Wall Street. In executive suites and academic offices, instructing the young, don't tell me he got what he deserved. He deserved a chariot and the accolades of a grateful people. He deserved his life. Okay, she's talking about the man that ran around having women booty shaking in his videos and talking about the most horrendous acts. But in any event, it is as clear as a mountain stream, as defining as a lightning strike, as terrifying as sun to vampires. Tupac told the truth. There were those who called it dirty gangster rap, inciting. There were those who never wanted to be angry at the conditions, but angry at the messenger who reported. Your kitchen has roaches. Your toilet is overflowing. Your basement has so much water, the rats are in the living room. Your house is in disorder. And Tupac told you about it. What a beautiful boy, graceful carriage, melodic voice, sharp with intellectual breath. What a beautiful boy to lose. So this is a poem by her. And again, just her whole concept of what was right was just absolutely wrong. To her, it was right. The Bible talks about woe unto those who call good evil and evil good. And that was what she was. And I told you about James Baldwin, who was at the beginning of this video, who was also queer and part of the civil rights movement, and Angela Davis. Angela Davis as well. She's still with us. She is still alive. So we have this queerness, this intersectionality, this movement of bringing this homosexuality out towards Black people. And we are lauded and praising these people. The NAACP, again, gave Nikki Giovanni 7 NAACP Image Awards, the same NAACP that awarded to Wade and his wife, Gabrielle Union, for going along with the mental illness of his son who's trying to be a girl. That is crazy. If you look at the titles of all of these groups, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, that word advancement, we didn't advance. We did not advance. We went backwards. The only thing Black people got out of the civil rights movement is the ability to move freely in public spaces. Well, you say, Linda B, that's not true. We got the ability to vote, but who are we voting for? We're voting for the party that is behind the destruction of our communities. And it has gone far beyond just Black people at this point. They are for the destruction of America. That being the Democrat Party. So you can say, well, we got the right to vote, though, but we don't vote right most of the time. It changed in the right direction, towards the right direction in this last election. In this last election with Donald Trump, it moved more towards the Republican side because people's eyes began to open. These Democrats are about destruction. But because it has taken us so long to finally understand what's been going on in the Black community, civil rights was a dependence on government. It's like Martin Luther King Jr. said that the government owes the Black man. And we're like this. We're on a plantation. The goal is to the government to give you something. But why do you have to sit around and wait for anybody to give us anything? We can be entrepreneurs. We can be whatever we want to be. Plenty of us are smart, intelligent, amazingly bright. We are equal, okay? There is nobody that has white privilege over us, okay? And that is what was born out of the civil rights movement. Government dependency, out of wedlock births, breaking up of the Black home, destruction of public school education where it was good before. We did not have the same amount of money or resources as the white schools, but we were at least graduating people that were literate. That's not the case now. And in the 1970s, the early 1970s, gangs came about. Drugs were poured into the Black community. Gee, wonder which party did that too. We got to think about these things. Yes, we do. And Nikki Giovanni, we hail her. This woman was against the nuclear family, against it. She said men were destructive and marriage was like slavery. That is what she said. That was the real Nikki Giovanni. Oh, she wrote poetic words. Oh, yes. But she was against marriage to a man because she ended up married. She was for marriage, but she married a woman, a white woman, even though she talked about love and Black folks. She didn't even marry a Black person. She should have married a man. It doesn't matter ethnicity, but because of the hypocrisy. Now, I don't want anybody misunderstanding what I'm saying. I make these points to show the hypocrisy. If you're saying you for Black love and you go and marry somebody white, and you say all these bad things against white people, you say all these bad things against white people, which I don't agree with, by the way. I just want y'all to understand. I'm just making a point. You go and marry a white person and a woman, not even a man. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. The hypocrisy. Again, I'm pointing out the hypocrisy here. I'm not against interracial marriage. I'm talking about the hypocrisy of it all. If you say one thing, then do that thing. If you're Black Lives Matter, then you do that thing. Liberals are behind the Black Lives Matter movement. George Soros. I mean, these people are being funded by the elites to destroy. It's like the modern day civil rights movement, but more destructive in my opinion. Oh, and by the way, Black Lives Matter was founded by Black queer women. See the similarities here, warriors? See the similarities? That's what's happening. That's what's been happening. They are for the evil. Now, I'm not talking about all white people. I don't want anybody to miss. I'm talking about the liberal, anti-God, communist, Marxist white people. This communism Marxist. Yes, this anti-God, this God-hating faction that supplies the funding to all the things that pretend to be for Black people. I put emphasis on the word pretend, but they are actually for the destruction of Black people. When are we going to open our eyes, pay attention? Don't go by what they tell you. You go by what you see. Don't look at stats that you've been given that's been barfed up by some evil anti-God liberal. You look around you and see for yourself. Black women, you used to be married, one of the most married women. Now we're the least married. And men are not checking for us because we've developed this hardcore masculinity. I don't need a man. Well, honey, I need Jesus, but I want a man. I'm married. Thank you, Jesus. Almost a quarter of a century. So we need to uphold the biblical definition of family. When you try to make things the opposite of what God has, it destroys. It is taking the bait of the enemy. And even Martin Luther King Jr. at the end of his life, and he was a serial adulterer, by the way, who did not really believe in a virgin birth or all of that stuff. He was really, according to what I'm getting, not a believer unless he repented at the last moment, which no one knows but the Lord. And I'm hoping he did. But in any event, he believed he had made a mistake and led the people into a burning building. That is what he said at the end of his life. Because the dependence went from depending on God to government, and you can never do that. So that is who Nikki Giovanni was. She was instrumental, very instrumental in the destruction of the Black family. She did not believe in a man having patriarchal authority or women being married to a man. She compared marriage to slavery. Nikki Giovanni compared marriage to slavery. So why should a Black woman continue to be enslaved? That is what she did. And this matriarchal thing that started back then kept trending towards that direction. And now we're about 80% of Black children in America being born outside of the confines of marriage, and a generation of poverty and government dependency, which is the Black Democrat plantation. The Democrat plantation. I put emphasis on the word Democrat because that is what it is. Well, you guys, I hope that everything I shared with you was helpful to you and that you got a lot out of it. I tried to do a little research and bring this information forward to you. But we as Black Americans and Americans, period, need to stop focusing on things that are not of God. Oh, this person is this and that. And I think Black people, we're so in love with skin color, we just disregard all that other stuff. But she was still talented. She still was a great poet. She helped in the destruction of the Black family. What did we get out of that? What did we get? And then she applauds a person like Tupac. You know, from what I gather, Tupac's life was not anything to be admired. Okay. So in any event, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, comment, share, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell. Now I have a new show. It is premiering this Tuesday, December 17th at 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube. It's called The Linda B Show. We're talking everything. We're talking culture. We're not talking politics. We're talking relationships. We're talking religion. We're talking everything of the sort. So be sure to check me out. You all be blessed. Love God, your families, these United States of America, and march on, warriors.